Hello aspiring developers, I hope you are all fine. So in this class we learn about lists in HTML. So in HTML, lists are used to organize and present information in a structured and readable manner. Lists allow you to group related items together, making it easier for users to understand the content. And there are three types of lists. First one is the ordered lists, and there is the unordered lists and the definition or description lists. If you have been following this course, you know that to get the notes, you can go to the repository that you forked and update the notes. And after you have updated them, you can go to your local repository in Visual Studio Code and use the git pull command to pull the notes in your local machine. Without much ado, let us go and see how lists are written in HTML and see how they are in practice. So let's dive in. Once you update your notes, you'll notice that you have an extra folder called 04 lists, and in the folder there'll be two files. One is the index.html file and the other is the readme file. The readme file contains all the notes that you need in this class, and the index.html file is the file that we'll be using to write our code in it. Let us now learn about the different types of lists. As we mentioned earlier, there are three types of lists, and we'll start with the unordered lists. Unordered lists are marked with bullets, and bullets are just small black circles. That is the default representation of unordered lists, and you can always change that using CSS. But now you're learning about HTML, so we'll see how unordered lists look like. So to make an unordered list, use the UL tag. UL to mean unordered list. And the tag, you can see when I close it, it has a closing tag. It is not a void element, it has an opening tag and a closing tag. So inside the unordered list element, you can write the li, and li is the list of items. So the ul is used to define the list, and the li is used to indicate each item in the list. For example, the first item, I'll call it 1, and I'll make 3 items there. The second one, I'll call it 2. Let me type it quickly. And the third item, I'll call it 3. And I save the code. So here, the ul defines the unordered list, and the li indicates the individual item in the list. So let us save this code and view it in our browser and see how it looks like. So when you go to the browser, you can see the 3 items that you wrote are now here, and each item has a bullet to indicate it is an unordered list, and that is how an ordered list look like. So now let us go and see how ordered lists are written. Just to remind you, here in the unordered list, you can see that each list of item is nested inside the unordered list. That means that the unordered list is the parent, and each list of item is the children of the unordered list. So now let us see how ordered lists are written. I can just put a comment here. We said that comments are used to document code, so I can document my code and write this is an unordered list. Then below the unordered list, I'll write another comment there and say here I'll write ordered lists. So ordered lists, as the name suggests, they are in order, and they are marked by numbers by default. They are marked by numbers like 1, 2, 3. That is the default way in which ordered lists are marked. And to write an ordered list, use the OL tag. OL to mean ordered list. And just like the unordered list, inside the OL you'll put list of item. Let me use the code which you use in the notes, that is coffee. Then I'll duplicate some values and say tea and milk. Tea. Then I'll save. You can see that the ordered list is similar to the unordered list, except that the ordered list is surrounded with OL tags. The OL tags are used to define the list, and we have said that OL is the ordered list. Now let us go to the browser and see how the ordered list look like. You can see that the ordered list number the items from 1 to 3, and it can number the items till the last item. So you can see coffee is number 1, tea is number 2, milk is number 3, and that is how ordered lists look like. By default they are numbered with numbers 1, 2 till the last number of the item that you'll put in the code. The next list is called the definition list or the description list. I'll just call them description list because that is how we call them in the notes. And you can see that a description list is a list of terms, and each term is represented with the DT tag. In fact, the whole list is represented with the DL tag. DL to mean description list, and each term in the list is represented by DT. And a description list, you have said that contains a term and the description. So the term is represented by DT and the description itself is represented by the DD element. So to create a description list, you'll first write the DL tag to mean description list. Then inside the list, you'll write your term there using the DT tag, say term. Then like in the note, you can say coffee. Then each term must have a description. So below the term, you can write DD to mean definition description and describe the term you wrote there. So if our term is coffee, you can describe coffee and say that coffee is just a black hot drink. That is how a definition or a description list is created. You can also describe tea using DT. Again, the term will be tea. Then in the description DD, you can say tea is a mixture of milk, water, and tea leaves. I don't know that's how you make tea in your place, but at my place, when someone says tea, they mean a mixture of water, milk, and tea leaves. So the next item is the milk. So it will be our term. Then the term will be milk. Then below the term, you can write the definition with the DD tag, and the definition will be a white, let's say cold drink, because usually milk most of the time is just cold, assuming you're getting it from the shop. And this is how you make a description list. A description list is separated by the DL tag. DL to mean description list. Then a description list contains a term and a description. So the term is defined using the DT tag or the DT element, and the description is defined using the DD element. So let us see how the description list look like in code. When you open your browser, you'll see that your list is now created, and you can see that the term here, coffee, then the definition is below it and slightly indented to show the relationship between the term and the definition. And that is how you create a description or definition list. You can see it's so beautiful, but you can also improve the beauty by using CSS to style it. And that is all about lists. But before we proceed, let me give you a small task that you can do to enhance your knowledge on lists. I want you to create a list, any type of list that you'll choose, and inside that list you should nest another type of list. So your code should have at least 2 types of lists in one block that are nested in each other. So I think the assignment is understood, and you can pause the video and do the task. So I think you have attempted the assignment. So I'll write a comment and say assignment. The assignment was to nest one list inside another to create a complex list. So in my case, I'll use the unordered list and the ordered list. So the first, I'll use an ordered list. And inside the ordered list, I'll put 3 lists of items. Then here I call item 1. Item 1. Here I'll put item 2. Then here I'll put item 3. As you can see that this is just a normal ordered list. But inside the item 2, let us say item 2 has another list inside there. And I'll put an ordered list there. Then inside there, I'll just say the another two lists, and I'll say like 2.1, then 2.2. As you can see, my whole list is an ordered list which has 3 items, but my second item has another list inside it, and the list is the unordered list which has 2 items. So now let us save it and see how it appears in the browser. When you view the output in the browser, you can see the browser has only 3 items labeled 1, 2 and 3, and also the items are just item 1 here, then item 2 there, and item 3 here. But you can see in item 2 there is another list. We can call this a sub list. So item 2 has sub list 2.1, another sub list 2.2, and the nesting can go even more deeper and more complex. You can make even more complex lists. You can just share your code in the comment section to see which type of list you made and how complex was your list. You'll also notice that when you nest an unordered list, the bullet becomes transparent. Initially the bullet was black in color. You can see in the top code here, the bullet was black, was a black circle, but when you nest it, it becomes a transparent circle because it's now 2 levels deep, and that is how you can nest more than one list in your code. I hope to see your answers in the comment section. That is it about lists. Just a recap, there are 3 types of lists: the ordered lists, the unordered lists, and the description or definition lists. And you have seen how each of them is written and how each of them appears in code. So the next thing that we're going to learn today is about the HTML structure. We have been writing HTML code since day 1 till today, but now let us look at the correct way to write the HTML code, because you can notice that when I run my live server here, you can see it is complaining that I don't have a body tag. So now let us add the body tag and the head tag to enable the live server to reload automatically. We said that you use the live server extension to make it easier to run our code, because if you have the live server, if you change the code in the Visual Studio Code, it automatically reloads in the browser. But now that is not the case because you don't have the head and the body tag. So let us learn about the head and the body tag to make our life easier when reloading our code in the live server. To make our code or our folder structure more organized, you can just create another folder inside the 04 list. Create another folder, new folder, call it 4.1, then a dash, then you can write there HTML structure, then hit on enter. Then inside the HTML structure, create a new file there, call it index.html. So now we'll have an HTML file inside the 4.1 HTML structure. So our initial topic was about lists, and lists, here is the code about lists is here in index.html, but inside the list there's another folder called HTML structure. Inside there's another index.html where we learn about the HTML structure. So now let us go to the code and write the HTML structure. You can see in the notes that all HTML documents must start with the document type declaration, that is the doctype HTML. And the HTML document must begin with an opening tag of HTML and a closing tag of HTML. And the visible part of HTML must be between the body tag. So let us see how all these tags are written. And there's a shortcut to write all the tags. In Visual Studio Code, you can just write, you can press Shift and 1 to write an exclamation mark, then hit on Enter. When you press Shift and 1, it will write an exclamation mark. Then if I press Enter, the HTML boilerplate will appear. This is the HTML boilerplate. A boilerplate is just a code that you start with, a starting code. Yeah, this is the HTML boilerplate. And you can see that in the boilerplate, the first line of code is the doctype.html. And you can see in the notes that the doctype HTML represents the document type and helps browsers to display web pages correctly. It must appear once and it should be the first line of your code. And the doctype is not case sensitive, meaning that it can be written either in small letters or in capital letters. But by default, when you press Shift 1, then Enter, it will be written in capital letters. That is the doctype HTML. And you can see the next tag is the HTML tag. And you can notice that HTML tag is where you place all your HTML code. Every code that you write must be inside the HTML tag. You can see it's the first tag here, and it also is the last tag here, line 11. And everything inside here, this is the HTML code. So every HTML code must be surrounded by the HTML tags. And you can notice that in the HTML tag, there's this lang attribute here. The lang attribute is used to specify the language of your document. And by default, since my VS Code is in English, so the language will be EN to mean English. So that is the basic structure of an HTML code. You must have a doctype declaration, and you must have HTML tag opening and the HTML tag closing. And inside the opening and closing tags is where you write your HTML code. This is the HTML code that you'll write inside the HTML tags. Inside the HTML tags, there are two more essential tags that are very important and you have to know them. The first one is the head tag and the other one is the body tag. So first, let us talk about the head tag. The head tag contains meta information about the document, which is normally not displayed on the web page. And the head tag includes elements such as the title, the meta, the link, and script. And the content inside the head tag provide information to browsers, search engines, and other web services about the document's structure, styling, script, and the character encoding, and also other important metadata that can be provided in the head tag. You can see that in the head tag, there is this meta. The meta means meta provides data about data. For example, you can see the meta has the chassis attribute, and the chassis attribute provides the character encoding. Like here, you can see that the chassis has UTF-8. That is the character encoding for the document. And also you can see that there is a title element. And the title element contains the title of the web page. And this information, as we have said earlier, it is not visible on the web page, but rather it's visible on the tab. You can also see there is a meta tag there that says the viewport property for the web page. You can see it has a name attribute that specifies that the metadata is defining the viewport by saying name is equals to viewport. Also, there is the content attribute that specifies the width and the initial scale of the document. So width means that the width of the viewport should be set to the width of the device screen. And the initial scale is set to 1 to set the initial zoom level where the page is first loaded. The value 1.0 means that the web page should be displayed at its original size without any zooming. Now that we have already talked about the meta tags that are present in our code, the two meta tags, we have already talked about them, and we have already talked about the title element that is provided in the head tag. There's also more tags that you can put in the head tag, and the other tag that you can put there is the link tag. You can see in the notes that there's this favicon. A favicon is a small, I can call it a small image that you see in the tab of a web. We'll look at it when you go to the browser. But you can, this is the code to add the favicon in your document. So let us copy that code and put it here below the title. This is the code to add the favicon in your web page. The link tag is used to define the icon or the favicon for a web page. It has the rel attribute, and the rel attribute specifies the relationship between the current document and the linked resource. In this case, it has the value icon, indicating that the resource that you're linking is an icon. And the link also has an href attribute where you specify the URL or the part of the icon. And the common extension of the favicon icons is the .ico. Also, you can see there's a type attribute that specifies the main type of the linked resource. In this case, it indicates that the linked resource is an icon in ICO format. In the head, you can also add the style element. You can see in the code it's written inline styles. You can copy this style element here and paste it in your code. Don't confuse the style element with the style attribute. Both of them do the same work of adding CSS to our web page. But the difference is, one is an attribute, the other one is an element. And we all know the difference between an attribute and an element. I'll not repeat myself. But you can see you can add the style element in the head tag of your code. So I think that is enough about the head tag. And now let us go to the body. But before you go to the body, let us go to the browser and see what you mean by saying that the head is not visible in the document, but what you write in the body is done that is visible in the document. So let us head to the browser and see the difference. When you go to the browser, you can notice that this white part, all of it is the body of your web page. But the information that you provide in the title, they are visible in this tab here. You can see it is written document, and the title of our web page was called document. And this small image here is the favicon, but currently we don't have a favicon, that's why it is displaying a blank image. But when you add an image, it will be visible here. So this is the content that you provide in the title, and this is the content that you provide in the body, is the white part. So anything that you write inside the body will be visible in this white part, but anything that you write inside the head will not be visible in the web page. You mean when you say it's not visible in the web page, you mean it's not visible in this white part, but rather it can be visible here, or it cannot be visible at all. You can see in this tab, this is a GitHub tab. You can see the icon is this image here. That's called the favicon. This small image here, that is the favicon of that web page. And this your repositories is the title of that web page. Now I think you know what we mean by visible in the web page and not visible in the web page. So now that you know that, let us go and learn about the body tag. As you have said earlier, anything that you write in the body will be visible in the web page. So in the body, there are two main elements that are usually present in the body. The first element is the header tag. We'll write it here, header. And don't confuse the head with the header tag. The header tag is used to represent the top section of your page, or the header of your web page. And normally it contains the h1 element, say my first document, and also it can contain the nav links. We already talked about links, so these nav links are just navigation links. Okay, let us copy this code here of nav links so that you cannot type all of it again. So you can see that our body can contain a header, and the header most times contains the main heading, that is the H1, and the nav links. And this is the top section of our page. Also, the body can contain the footer. The footer is the bottom part of our page, or like the word suggests, that's the footer. Let us copy this code and put it here. We already talked about semantic tags, and you can see header and footer are one of the semantic tags that we mentioned. So header is used to mean that the code that is inside there, it's the code for the top part of the web page. And the footer is a semantic tag to mean that the code that is present there inside the footer is the content of the bottom part of the web page. And that is how you create your body. Then between the header and the footer, inside here you can write any element that you've learned since day one. You can just write a paragraph and say this is a paragraph. And I can save the document. And this is how you write your HTML code. This is the correct way of writing HTML document. So all the code that we wrote since day one, it will be written inside the body of our HTML. And all the HTML code should be surrounded with the HTML elements. You can see HTML element supposed to be the last tag in your HTML code. And the first tag, as you said earlier, is the declaration, doctype declaration. This line here, line 1. And that is how you write your HTML code. So you can go to the browser and see how the code appears in the browser. When you go to the browser, this is what appears in the browser. You'll notice that the H1 is blue in color. This line is blue in color. This is because we use the style element to style the H1 to color blue. You remember us putting the style element in the head part of a document. That element is what caused this line to be blue in color. Then this one's here. This is an ordered list that we learned about today. So each list element, each item in the list is a link. You can see it's a link because first, when you hover on it, you can see the hand icon, meaning that it is a link. Also, it is blue in color and underlined. But the main thing to notice a link is when you hover on it, hand icons appear. And this one here is the paragraph that we added between the header and the footer of our page. In between the header and the footer, we added a paragraph, and this is the paragraph. Then this bottom part here is the footer of our page. And mostly the footer contains copyrights and the other information that you'll need in the footer. And that is how you structure a HTML document. And from now on, we'll be writing our HTML document using this structure. So that is it for today, guys. Let us meet tomorrow where we learn about inline and block elements in HTML. So have a nice day and happy coding. Peace out.